Picture a family dinner table in Osaka. A 13-month-old is sitting in her high chair. On the tray in front of her, miso soup, steamed fish, soft tofu, a little pile of cooked burdock root. She picks up a piece of fish with her fingers, puts it in her mouth, chews, and reaches for more. No drama, no negotiation, no separate meal cooked just for her. Now picture dinner in most Western homes with a toddler. There is the approved list: chicken nuggets, plain pasta, maybe a specific brand of cheese that must be the right shape or it gets thrown. The moment something unfamiliar touches the plate goes on the floor, and the parent, for the 100th time, opens a second pot to cook something the child will actually eat. There are 2 dinners happening in that kitchen, one for the adults and one for the small, extremely powerful dictator at the table. Same age children, completely different relationship with food. So what is going on? Japanese children have some of the lowest rates of picky eating and childhood obesity in the developed world. Japan's childhood obesity rate sits at around 5%. In the United States, it is over 22%. This is not genetics, this is not luck, and it is not because Japanese toddlers are born with different taste preferences than yours. The real reason is 3 specific habits that Japanese parents begin before the child is even close to their first birthday. All 3 are supported by neuroscience. None of them involve hiding vegetables in brownies, making food into funny shapes, or bribing your child with screen time. These habits work because they work with a biological window your child is born with, a window that is open right now and quietly closing. Once you understand what it is and how Japanese parents use it, everything about your child's eating will make sense in a way it never has before. The first habit is called Rinyushoku. It means the food that separates from milk. It is the Japanese system of introducing solid foods, and it begins at 5 months old. Not 6, not when the parent feels ready. 5 months, the moment the baby begins showing interest in what the adults are eating. But the timing is only half the story. What matters more is what Rinyushoku introduces, and in what order. In most Western homes, the first solid foods a baby receives are sweet: pureed apples, banana, mashed pear. These are easy. The child accepts them immediately, and the parent feels successful. So the early diet becomes a sweet diet, and the brain begins logging a very clear preference. Japanese Rinyushoku begins differently. The very first food is okayu, a thin rice porridge, barely flavored. Then, quickly, dashi watered vegetables, kabocha squash, spinach, carrot, tofu, white fish, foods that are savory, mildly bitter, and deeply unfamiliar to a Western palate, foods that most Western toddlers would reject completely. And Japanese babies accept them, not because they love them on the first try, but because of what scientists now know about the brain at this exact age. Researchers call it the flavor window. It is a developmental period between approximately 4 and 18 months when the brain is most open to forming positive associations with new tastes. During this window, the brain is actively wiring its food map. Every new flavor that enters during this period gets written into the neural architecture of preference. Once the window begins to close, which it does slowly through the second year of life, new flavors become threats, not opportunities. That is not a parenting failure, that is biology. One study tracking over 4,000 infants found that the percentage of children classified as picky eaters rose from 19% at 4 months old to 50% by 24 months. The children did not change, the window did. Japanese parents intuitively use this window. They do not wait until the child is a confident eater to introduce difficult flavors. They introduce difficult flavors precisely because the child is not yet a confident eater, because the brain is still plastic, still mapping, still open. Rinyushoku is not just a weaning method, it is a flavor education program that runs during the only period of life when that education is almost effortless. And it does not require acceptance on the first try. Research confirms that a new flavor may need to be offered 8 to 10 times before a baby accepts it. Japanese parents know this. They do not interpret refusal as rejection, they interpret it as round one. The second habit is called dashi no aji. It means the taste of dashi, the foundation broth of Japanese cooking, made from kelp and dried fish, built almost entirely on umami. Umami is the fifth basic taste, not sweet, not salty, not sour, not bitter. A deep, savory, satisfying richness that tells the brain, this is nutritious, this is real, this is worth eating. Humans are born with umami receptors on the tongue for a specific biological reason. Breast milk is naturally high in glutamate, the compound that creates the umami sensation. Your baby have been tasting umami since before they were born. Japanese mothers introduce dashi into the Rinyushoku diet from the very first weeks of solid feeding, not as a strong flavor, as a background note. A few drops of lightly simmered kombu broth added to plain rice porridge, then to vegetable purees, then to fish and tofu. Over months, the child builds a taste map anchored in umami, and because umami acts as a flavor bridge, it makes savory, bitter, and complex foods taste more complete. The child begins to accept foods that would otherwise register as unpleasant. This is why a Japanese toddler will eat steamed burdock root and a Western toddler will not. It is not that the Western child dislikes burdock root specifically, it's that no one built the bridge. In most Western households, the cooking base is butter or oil. Flavor comes from salt and sweetness. There's no umami scaffolding in the early diet, and so when a complex vegetable or a mild fish is offered to a Western toddler later on, their palate has no reference point for it. It arrives without context, and the brain's response to an unknown, unanchored flavor at age 2 is very different from its response at age 6 months. At 6 months, the brain says, new, interesting, cataloged. At age 2, it says, unknown, dangerous, no. Dashi no aji is not about making food taste better for a child. It's about building a flavor architecture in the brain before the brain locks it in. The third habit ties everything together. It is called Shokuiku. It means food education, and in Japan, it is not a school subject. It begins at the dinner table, in the first year of life. Shokuiku is the practice of treating every meal as a sensory, social, and educational experience from the first day solid food is introduced. Japanese parents narrate food, not enthusiastically, not as a performance, quietly. This is kabocha. It comes from the ground. This is fish. Feel the texture. When a baby touches food, makes a face, pushes it away, the Japanese parent does not immediately remove it. They wait. They watch. They offer again tomorrow. There is no separate baby meal in the Japanese household. From the moment Rinyushoku begins, the child's food is a simplified, softer version of whatever the family is eating, not a parallel universe of beige foods designed to be inoffensive. The family eats fish, the baby gets fish, mashed. The family eats miso soup, the baby gets a diluted version. The child's palate is invited into the family's world from day one, rather than being kept in a protected bubble until they're old enough to reject the real thing entirely. Research from the National Health and Nutrition Survey in Japan and a long-running study published in the journal Nutrients found that family meals, specifically family conversation about food during meals in the early years, had a measurably stronger effect on a child's long-term eating habits than any formal nutrition program or school lunch initiative. The dinner table is the classroom, and it opens for enrollment at 5 months old. Shokuiku also means the parent models without pressure. Japanese parents eat their vegetables visibly, calmly, and without comment. They do not make a production of eating well. They do not celebrate when the child takes a bite of broccoli as if a miracle has occurred. They simply eat. And the child, whose entire learning system at this age is built around mirroring the people nearest them, follows. Pressuring a child to eat a new food through negotiation, rewards, or repeated insistence has been shown in multiple studies to produce the opposite of the intended effect. Children who are pressured to eat specific foods are more likely to reject them, not less. The Japanese approach removes pressure entirely. The food appears, it is offered without drama. If it is refused, it returns tomorrow, without comment, without consequence. Here's what you can start tonight. If your child is between 5 and 18 months old, you are still inside the flavor window. It has not closed. In the next 3 days, introduce one new savory flavor, not in place of something familiar, alongside it. A small spoonful of mashed spinach with tofu, a tiny amount of flaked white fish mixed into rice porridge.
Something from your own dinner, softened and simplified. Do not react when they reject it. Do not react when they accept it. Simply offer, observe, and return tomorrow. If your child is already past 18 months and is a picky eater, the window has narrowed, but it is not gone. The approach simply requires more patience and more repetitions. The science is the same. The brain can still build new associations. It just takes more visits to the same door before it opens. Add dashi to your cooking. You do not need to make it from scratch. Low-sodium kombu broth is available in most grocery stores. Add a small amount to soups, to rice, to any savory vegetable you are hoping your child will eventually eat. You are not changing the flavor dramatically. You are building the bridge. And eat your own food visibly, without commentary. Let your child see you eat the foods you want them to eat. Not once, every day, for months. Rinyushoku, dashi no aji, Shokuiku, the window, the bridge, the table. Japanese parents did not discover a trick for getting children to eat vegetables. They never created the problem in the first place. The flavor map was written before the child had enough language to refuse it. By the time the Japanese toddler is old enough to say no, the yes is already in the brain. If this changed how you think about your child's relationship with food, share it with a parent who is still cooking 2 separate dinners every night. Subscribe. Next week, we go inside the Japanese approach to raising children who are not afraid to fail, and the one phrase Japanese parents use after a mistake that rewires how a child sees their own ability forever. See you then.